Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of County Talk. As you know, this is where we sort of delve into the issues that you may not know about with county government. Most people know about roads and the kind of the normal things that we do, but we do much more than that. So I'm Sue Hansen. I'm one of your three elected county commissioners, and I'm here with Carlos Funes from the Sheriff's Department. He's our animal control officer. And so we're going to talk cats, dogs, cows, whatever else we catch around here. So I mean, we're rural, so we have lots of animals, right?
Wildlife. We got deer.
Wildlife.
Sometimes I assist with the DOW on elk calls or stuff like that. And there's some things that I do need to bring to the DOW, like if it's a bald eagle.
Yeah.
Those
So
are
let's not get ahead of ourselves. We don't want to get all throw away all the secrets at first. So tell me what a typical day is for an animal control officer.
A typical day is obviously calling in to dispatch, and I'm on duty.
Yeah.
And depending on what happened the day before, if I don't have any follow-ups, and typically you should have all your reports done from the day before, I'll patrol. And I'll go north, south, east, west, and basically what we're looking for, and I'm looking for, is animals at large. A lot of times it could be a cow at large. It could be a horse at large. That's the beauty of the job, is I never know
what's going to happen. What's going to be at large? God knows. And I know we had a wallaby some years back. I don't know if you were the animal control officer then, but that got a lot of attention, having a wallaby running around the county. But
right. No, also a kangaroo.
A kangaroo? No, I thought it was either way, one of those animals that jump around a lot. So when you're not. You get direct calls from citizens that might have a dog running around their neighborhood that shouldn't be. But before we get into that, why don't we talk about what the rules are in the county for when your dog needs to be under control, correct? So explain a little bit about that.
So basically within Montrose County, we do not have a leash law. But you have to be able to verbally control your dog to come back to you. Basically you have to have verbal control. You have to be able to control your dog, but there is no leash law. As far as a dog at large, that without the owner, basically if we have somebody call that in, then I have to go and obviously follow up with the citizen that reported it, get their information, and then go to the person who's responsible for that dog, if they know who they are, and then actually give them a warning. So once I give somebody a warning and it happens again, then they could receive a citation.
So that's a ticket they'd have to pay for a dog at large.
Dog at large, first offense is $75. A second offense is $150. A third offense is you're going to go see the judge. It's going to be a summons. Yeah,
wow.
It'll be a summons, and it'll be up to the judge to figure out what he wants to do with the situation. And it's kind of out of my hands after that.
Yeah.
But if the same person repeats it and does it again, I can start that whole process all over again.
So I mean, that's kind of a challenge, isn't it? I mean, we have a big county. So are you covering the whole county? Or
I cover the whole county.
Even over in the West End?
The West End the West End kind of has help.
Okay.
But the patrol deputies there kind of take care of the calls.
Okay.
But the NUCLA has a animal control officer that kind of assists. But they usually take care of all the calls. So,
a dog running around, I mean, that happens. Dogs get out. I remember when I was in college, we had a lamb, and the lamb running down the street with all the dogs. And so I didn't get a ticket, though. But it can get pretty, I mean, you can have a vicious dog. I mean, there can be some danger to, or some risk to what you do, right?
There is. And a lot of the times the dogs are pretty good judge of character. They know if you're scared, or
never let them see you sweat. Is that it?
Right. Just it depends. You have to analyze the situation and pick the right recourse. Like if I need to get a leash and sit there and leash him and put him in the back of the truck forcefully, then I have to. A lot of times food works. I'll go get a live trap, and I'll put the food in the trap, and then ka-clang, they go in, and then I don't really have to deal with them as much as I would, if I was just trying to get over there and put a leash on them and
So let me clarify for people that may not know, but just so that your dog can run around your yard. It's nice if they're in a fenced yard, but they do if you're living out in the country, if they're running around and they're not within your verbal commands, then the dog can get picked up. And then
There's only one exception to the rule.
What's that?
And that's if it's a working dog. It's a herding dog.
Okay.
You know, the rules, I can't say don't apply to them. They have to be away from their property, but they have to be working. But if all of a sudden, let's say like a human being gets distracted and all of a sudden he goes, I want to go across the street over here and talk to Sue, you know, and gets distracted and goes onto somebody else's property.
right, then somebody could call you.
Then it's an issue.
So there's an element of fun of your job. I mean, I'm guessing that you do have some. Not every dog is a vicious dog. They're friendly. So you lure them in. I understand you have some treats in your car that you tend to.
do. I
So
do.
how does that work?
So basically, I have the basic treat I have is just a milk bone, and usually 99.9% of the dogs will like a milk bone, and they'll follow me and they'll hop right in the truck. So depending on their attitude or how they act, usually they'll ride up right in front with me.
Oh.
You know.
Well, they're like they're your partner.
Yep.
Yeah. Deputize that kid.
But the one that really works well, but they're expensive, is the doggy
Red steak.
beef jerky.
Oh, beef jerky.
Yeah, the doggy beef jerky.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, because
They
people still a little salty. Yeah, yeah. So what do you think makes a good animal control person? Because you just mentioned some skills. You've got to be able to be resourceful and kind of assess a situation. What else do you think is important for an animal control
It's
officer?
very important to have common sense. You know, that's the big part of the job. You know, if you need help, ask for help. I got plenty of fellow deputies that would be more than happy to come assist me. And that's like, let's say I'm going into a sketchy house. You know, the common sense says, maybe not so much.
Maybe better wait.
Yeah. A big thing, even beside that, is learning and knowing how to work with people, citizens. You know, they're human beings. They have families. You have to understand that.
Sure.
I'd like to treat them the way I'd like to be treated, and that just goes not even just past work. I mean, even just everyday life.
Sure. I mean, just treat people with kindness and respect. And yeah, everybody deserves that no matter what their situation, right?
I was brought up, you get more with sugar than salt.
Yep, exactly. Well, so you know you have to be able to. Common sense is in short supply. You do know that, so it's nice that you have some. But there are also times where you have to call in a deputy. And give me an example of when you would have to call in a deputy to help you out.
So basically, there was a call yesterday, which almost I needed to call deputy because up off of 90, way up over by 60V Road trail, there was a deer stuck in a fence. And if there's an animal that's suffering and it needs to be dispatched and I need help, I'll call the deputies, and they're there like that.
The deer was still alive then, and
It was.
Oh.
It was. And it needed to be dispatched.
Right.
And when I tried to go cut it out with some cutters.
Pliers, or something.
So when I approached it, so that's the last resort, is dispatching a deer.
Sure, of course.
I've cut many out and they've made it. You know, that's what I was going to try to do with this
So
one.
do you have to report the deer to CPW? Because that's kind of, the wildlife is kind of in their realm. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding that?
No. When we get the call, it depends on the situation. I had a call off 90 and somebody called in a deceased deer. But when I got there, the antlers were just completely cut off. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to call DOW on this one. And, and sure enough,
that's you can't do that, right?
no.
Yeah.
That's another thing, common sense. You know, it's like, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole right now. I'd rather DOW come and see. They might have a camera somewhere, which they did.
Sure. Department of Wildlife. So you also have to partner, because the county doesn't have its own animal shelter, so we partner with the city. Talk a little bit about how we collaborate with the city and how you work those calls and how that whole thing operates.
It's a wonderful facility there, and my hat's off to them. Tomoko is one that kind of runs the show there, and And basically, when the county employee, which is me, or any other deputy, takes a dog in, we give them information on a form that we have, animal intake, and basically where we found them, what time we found them, and is the dog in good shape? Is it friendly? Is it not? Is it being quarantined for 10 days because it bit somebody? And if so, like, by the way, it's some situations like that happen, but also if the dog owner's incarcerated, are we holding it for evidence? So we have all these things that we can circle to figure out what's going on with the four-legged kid. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's more than I thought. So then you take it into the city. They would take, I don't know, cage the dog or whatever, and then
they put him in the.
But then we get after 5 days if somebody hasn't picked up their dog. We try to put something on Facebook. At least we used to put something on Facebook.
Yeah, and we're actually working on that now. I think we have hired somebody to take care of that. But yeah, usually we'll put it on Facebook, and before any of this happens, I usually have a chip reader to make sure that if I do everything,
if they're chipped.
Yeah, I do everything I can to get the dog to its owner. Taking it to the shelter is the last resort.
Yeah, because it does end up costing money, and
it does.
So if the county gets charged, but do we charge back the family if they do recover the dog afterwards?
They get charged a daily fee.
The people do.
Yeah.
The dog owners or pet owners. Okay.
Yeah, the county's going to get charged either way.
Okay.
So that's why I try to save tax dollars.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. Well, and also people would appreciate having their pet home,
And I do that even on the flip side of things. It's not so nice. Even if they're deceased, I check them. And I've had to deliver 2 deceased dogs to their owners, and that's not fun.
No.
But
yeah, that'd be tough.
I would want the same done for me.
Yeah.
Well,
you want to know what happened to your animal, right? So we work along with the city. They have animal control officers too. So do you guys help each other at some point, or?
Yep. They get a lot of calls. They get inundated sometimes, and so do I. But if I'm not, and I see something I can help them with, I can help them with animal stray or animal deceased calls. But I can't help them out with like an animal noise call because they have their ordinances
right,
that
or different
don't coincide with ours. So, but if I see an animal stray or a deceased animal, I absolutely will help them, and they'll probably do the same with me.
Yeah, I like the partnership that we have with the city on those issues. It's
and I help out Olathe PD as well. And we all work together.
Yeah, that's great. So. Surely you have a warm dog story or something that has happened to you that kind of you think about it, something that happened on the job that was really something you'd remember. Well, tell us about it.
There's a few, but there's one that pops out in my head.
You're not going to cry, are you?
No.
Okay.
I better not. I do have a soft heart for the dogs. I don't even call them DOGs. But they're four-legged kids.
Four-legged kids.
But anyways, off Marine, they have a business there, and they sell like dirt, bricks, and gravel. I forget the name of the place.
Yeah.
I got a call about a dog that was stray, and I went and I was looking for him, and I heard noises, and it was in the canal, like ditch, and there was water in it. And I looked down, and there's a yellow lab that was stuck in the barbed wire fence.
Oh no!
So I went in, and I was slipping in toward the fence myself, and I went and I cut him out, and kind of threw him over my shoulder, just kind of grabbing on the branches, and got him to safety, and that was.
Yeah, that's rewarding, huh?
That was.
Was he licking you? Where's the milk bone? Where's the milk bone? Come on, dude.
I chipped him after. I put the reader on him, and the owner lived like right off of Happy something. I forget what it was, but yeah, I got him home, and it was only like a quarter mile away. And
yeah, cool.
And
were they surprised when they heard the story about what had happened?
Yeah, and
because that seems like a long way away. Does it? Is it?
Not for no. They can go. Yeah,
okay.
they can. Especially the Pyrenees. I mean, I've gotten some from actually Happy Canyon. That's over by Sims Mesa, and they make it into town.
How many? What's the percentage of animals that are chipped? I mean, we don't chip cows, right? We just chip dogs.
Yeah, just dogs.
But are most owners chipping their animals?
It'd be nice if they did, because it makes it a lot easier for us to find where they're
Sure.
from, or even a dog tag, kind of old school.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But the more information we have, the better chance I have to get that dog back home. And ultimately, that's what my goal is, to get him home.
I know when you first started with the county, you weren't with the animal control, but what drew you to the job? I mean, is it because you love animals, or I mean, because I think it's interesting that you went from one to the other. So
I used to work for facilities maintenance as a carpenter for the county, and I had made some friends at the sheriff's office, and we'd always joke about it. And then one time I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, that could be rewarding, because I love dogs. I love animals, period. So I was like, you know what, let's give it a shot.
not? Yeah.
Yeah. And
how long have you been at the job now?
it's a little over 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And I love my other job with maintenance, and facilities. The county in general is it's an awesome place to work.
Yeah, I agree.
But, I have a job I love.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
I love it when people can say that, because it's so important. So, are there anything that we need to know about, or that the people that would be listening would need to know about your job? And are there areas where you have more calls than others? I mean, does it seem when it maybe more dense areas, or what are you seeing?
I do have repeat offenders sometimes that are a little bit difficult to deal with.
Yeah. The dogs or the people?
The people. It starts with the owners, and when you get an owner that's irresponsible, it transfers to the dog, and it's almost like human beings.
Right.
If you're a bad parent, bring up your kid right,
Yeah.
they're gonna get the clink.
Right. Right.
But,
So you do you try to educate people too?
I do.
Because I think some people don't really, there's some people that baby their animals, and some people that view them as more rugged. How do you do that?
subtly. You don't want to say, "Hey, dummy,"
Yeah.
whatever.
You gotta be.
You got to work with them and just say, "Hey, you know what? You might take this suggestion or not, but maybe put a fence up. Maybe your electric fence isn't working, or
Yeah.
if you don't use a leash, maybe you should start using a leash, or subtle things.
Yeah.
And if the dog looks malnourished, they go, what? They do have food at the shelter sometimes that they donate, or
Right.
you can go to the shelter
Right.
or the human shelter.
I bet that breaks your heart, though, if you see an animal being mistreated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like getting back to like working with different agencies, and sometimes I'll work with the Colorado State Veterinarian, and if it gets to that point to where an animal's really getting mistreated, I'll go to the state and say, hey, I need some help. And
Tell me more about that. What would the state veterinarian do then?
they would come here and we'd meet with the sheriff's department, and then we get together, and then we go to the area of the call, and they would be the ones to be a judge of, are they being mistreated or not? If they figure out that it is, then they get a warrant and to get on the property, and they can actually seize the animals if it gets to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope we don't have that much of that going on.
No.
Just break my heart. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Cool. So what do you think the public? Because there's an element of safety here too. I mean, I know I've had friends that were bike riders that have been bitten. One in particular, she's been bitten twice by dogs just chasing after the bikes. It's really scary. I mean, should we carry something when we're biking, or
I can't tell you what to do.
Okay.
But pepper spray is a good deterrent, and they actually sell stuff at like a chow down.
Okay.
But you can actually go, for the specific, to where it's not going to really hurt the dog.
Won't hurt, just will stop them maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I recommend that.
Okay.
But almost like you were saying earlier, where it's like really problematic places. Bike riders like biking on Kinnikin.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of problems there.
Is that right? There's a lot of dogs out there. Yeah. I know that even if you go out toward Olathe, there's a lot of stretches where dogs are just, they'll just chase you. And I'm not really sure what to do. I just think that if you live out in the country, you're used to not that much traffic. And so you get casual about your dogs being able to just hang out. And then, then one of them jumps out of the fence or gets
Right.
lost or gets loose. So it makes it difficult.
I think the worst thing to do is try to kick them. You're just giving them a piece of your body to bite.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but sometimes you don't. I mean, I guess you could just try it out, run them, but maybe I'm not that good of shape. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I gotta go. So what else do we need to know about animal control, and what else do you think people need to understand? Because I really love the educational aspect of what you do. I think it's really important that we help people be better pet owners, and sometimes people will take suggestions, and sometimes people
Right.
won't. But
The biggest thing that can help the sheriff's office in general is just to pay attention to your pets. Make sure they're not roaming at night. That's another thing people like doing is letting them loose. Oh, there's nobody around. Well, sometimes there is.
yeah,
And basically just follow the rules.
yeah,
Obey
yeah.
the law. It's not that hard.
Well, I mean, there's a ton of pet owners. At one point, I was looking at how much people spend on vet and dog supplies and all of that. So, I mean, it's a huge industry. So when you see people that are not taking care of their dogs, it really does break your heart. So I really hope that your education kind of helps people understand that being a good pet owner is really the responsible way to go.
I've actually turned people around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the repeat offenders, and it's like, come on.
They're like, okay, Carlos.
Yeah, I was like, come on, really?
Yeah.
It's like
So have you had to catch any chickens, or I mean, is there a funny animal that you've had to?
when I first started, I was actually in training, and we got a call on a peacock, and that was a weird one off of Jasmine. I believe it was Jasmine, and I was like, yeah, we don't really. That's another thing too, is we don't facilitate bird calls.
Right. Not caw, but bird calls.
Right.
Okay.
Bird calls. Birds and
Birds and cats.
raccoons.
Raccoons. So who would you call for those?
Well, when it comes to raccoons, I mean DOW. I mean, I'll deal with a deceased raccoon. If it's a traffic hazard, I'll remove them. And dispose of them.
Right.
But as far as live ones go, when people trap them, when they're trying to trap them, and they're like, "It's been doing damage to my house," well, you're gonna have to figure out what to do with the raccoon.
Well, I guess there are pest control, or there are businesses that actually will come in and help do that.
Yeah, and
too,
sometimes the public thinks that we're that, but we're not. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's busy, and it's a big county, so it's really hard to get to every animal call. And I read the blotter, of course, because who doesn't? Doesn't everybody read the blotter? And so I see a number of animal calls. Livestock is on the road. This one's we're worried about that, or it's lost, and so the deputies take care of a lot of those too, don't they?
Yeah, we all work together.
Yeah.
And I'm there 5 days a week, but when I'm not there, the deputies take the rest of those calls.
Cool.
And a real place where cows get out a lot is up off of 50 east,
Right.
going toward
Yeah.
Cimarron area.
Yep.
But those cows have rights. I mean,
The cows have rights.
no, they do. It's a fence-out state.
Yeah.
And if they do get out,
They get.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to hit them. You're
Yeah.
supposed to be careful and slow down and all of that. Yeah.
and some people don't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even when I'm trying to wrangle them and get them to safety, the people just zipping right by me.
Yeah.
And I have my lights on. But,
Yeah. I wish we could find a better way to educate people about these kind of rural issues, especially with animals. One of my big issues is how people drive through livestock when they're bringing the sheep down from the high country, and so there's 1,000 sheep on the road, and people don't know what to exactly do. So I'm going to do a driver's test sometime with people so that they know. So once you get back, you do your calls. You have to actually fill out reports, just like a police
Daily.
report, right?
Yeah. So daily. Basically, I didn't like it at first when I first started. I'm like, oh, computer stuff, but I got used to it. And then
You're like an old dog. New
but
trick.
it got to be fun because you're telling a story.
Yeah.
Just just like we're talking now. You
Yeah.
ask questions, I'm going to answer them.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing a report, you just got to put down what you saw.
Yeah.
Write down what happened.
Yeah.
You know, and sign off.
Yep.
Love Carlos.
Yep,
you know?
love Carlos.
Yep.
Take care of your dog. Here's a milk bone. Yeah, actually, I love that you love your job. I think it's really. Maybe I'll do that in my retirement. That'd be kind of interesting,
You're
fun.
not gonna come after
Maybe
my
I
job,
do ride
are you?
along. Just no, yeah, no. I have enough to handle. I hope that. Is there anything left that we haven't talked about that we wanted to say about your job and animal control?
Well, beside that, like, you know, when I'm not doing that, I'll do like if a traffic hazard pops up and I can help. I kind of insert myself where I can be utilized.
Yeah.
And
So
if
you do
there's-
other stuff besides just that?
Yeah, I'll pick up, let's say, a couch is in the middle of the road, a mile marker 87 Mural 8th, and I'll say, hey, I can do that.
Did you hear that? Call Carlos for abandoned couches.
It'll come
Now
up
you're going to be busy.
it'll come up as a traffic hazard
Yeah.
on my screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll help out with that.
You're not opposed to doing whatever it takes to do your job. And
Just wherever I'm needed.
and working for the county is important to you, so it shines through. It's good to talk to you. I'm
thank
really
you.
glad you took the time to come and chat with us. I hope you learned something about animal control and maybe how to be a responsible pet owner and take care of your pets and keep them under control. Not on a leash, but keep them under control. So
Right.
Carlos doesn't have to come and write you up. But thanks for popping into
Not
the
a problem.
podcast studio and sharing your job
It was,
responsibilities. Yeah.
It was a pleasure talking with you.
It's
Yeah,
cool.
and
Great.
it's
Well,
always
signing
is.
off. What?
It always is. Always is.
Always
nice
is a
talking.
pleasure. Always is a pleasure.
Talking to Sue Hansen.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us again. I
right.
can't wait to see you on our next podcast, and hope you learned a little bit about animal control.